cities, highways, and infrastructure projects. The mid-2010s, local. Hello, my Teaserking family. How is everybody today? I am fine. It is Friday. No swim today. They've closed the building. I was joking with the lady. I said, well, I'll probably show up anyway because I'll forget that you're closed. I do that a lot where I just automatically go there and then they're not open. Well, we'll start with gold, as we always start with. Gold is 32.88. It doesn't know what it's. Look at this chart. 32.93 for like 6 hours, more than that, from midnight till 8. It didn't move. And then, of course, just before 10 o'clock, the big drop, and then here comes right back up again so the U.S. can buy. I don't know. I guess they make some money on these derivatives because it's a lot of paper. It's not physical gold. Watched MMcgwire today, and he explained like what's going on. He explained, we'll watch it. He explains basel 3 is definitely going. China's the driving force behind it. So it's not like some people are saying, oh, well, basel 3 won't happen or it'll come in late. No, it's happening. It's happening July 1st. And it will definitely drive our gold and silver up as they'll have to cover. They'll have to pay off. Right now, the U.S. doesn't have to pay off. That's why silver doesn't move. They'll have to, and that'll be the big change. And that's what we've been waiting for, is just a fair price, because we know the demand for gold and silver is so high, because we know they keep printing dollars. And we know that because most of the governments are Keynesians, which means they're communist and they think the government should run the economy, not the people. We believe it's the people. That's what Austrian is. So when the economy slows down, they think we'll just print more money and that'll move the economy. And they just don't get it. It's Say's law. It's what we want. And if we are not working or our prices get too high, we don't buy, no matter how much you print. So all the governments in the world just create more and more inflation, which is printing money, which they want to sell us as it's not really printing money, it's prices. That's the effect of it, is the money's worthless, the money loses value, and it takes more dollars to buy things. That's the whole realm, but it's not the prices, the inflation is the money printing. And so the Keynesians sit there and go, we're going to print money. That's what we do. We believe if we print, that's it. We don't want savings. We're worried about unemployment. So if everybody works, the economy will grow. They're only looking at growing the economy. We're looking at don't fuck the money up. And they fuck the money up, and that's the problem. So really that's what we're looking at. But all the countries are doing it, and now it's all finalizing at the same time, because a lot is all dependent on one. So everybody depends on the U.S. to buy or China to make. And so when it starts crashing, like Evergrande crashed China, the U.S., just massive inflation. Biden and Obama basically crashed the U.S. with all the money printing. And COVID was probably the beginning of it. You know, that's nice and hidden, but they printed and printed and printed. And anyway, this is the problem. It's just very, very tough. And we're all wondering, why isn't gold and silver going up? When will silver go? That's all I hear. When will silver go up? When will gold? Gold's gone from 2,000 to 3,000. Nobody can really ask that question. But silver, they're going, well, silver doesn't move. Why would I buy it? And that's where I get into variables, because BRICS has changed, and now Basel III will be July 1st, will change the game. The banks like it because the banks do the derivatives and they keep it going. So they really want, they like playing the game. But the problem is, in the bank game, in JP Morgan's game on comex, I'll short in London buys, and then they short and JP Morgan buys, and they never settle in physical. And that's the game. And they're really trying to price fix gold and silver. And they're trying, I don't know, it's really what everybody uses to price it. So I think they're trying to keep the price low. So obviously people can buy it, right? And why they use comex as the price when they know it's a bullshit price, I have no idea. Now, being stoic, what can you do about it? You either fight it or you go with it. We're going with it. We're going, fine. If you want to keep the price down, we'll go buy it. You're keeping the price down, not for us, but we'll get into we'll play the game too. And that's really what happens is we read into the game. They don't want us in the game. Only the people like us who are very analytical and very open-minded and see what's happening can play the game, can play this game, because most people are like, I'm going to buy Bitcoin because it goes up, and silver doesn't move, I'm not going to buy it. You should be buying it for exactly that reason, that it's waiting, but it will go up. So you have to understand it will go up. It will be comex. They have to do Basel III, and according to Mark, it's a done deal. They have to do it. And this is where they're going to have to buy inventory, and they can't find any. There's no inventory to buy, so they'll have to pay more. And as Egon says, it's the price has to go up because there's no more supply to give them. So if demand's there and there's no supply, you got to go. If there's only 10 Montana cards, PSA 10, and you want it, the price has to go up because there is no 11th PSA 10 Montana. I don't know how many there are, but there's not a lot. So that's really the point of this story. We'll get to Mark later. But anyway, so gold, it's dancing, it's singing, it's dancing. It's basically at 32.89. But it's moving up, and then it's Friday, so China's not in. China's been more shorting it than buying it. Europe's been buying it. This is so obvious a fix. So it's sitting there at 32.98, 3,300. It goes down to 32.75. So the U.S. can buy it at 32.75, driving it back up to 3,300. What an obvious scam. It's clearly an obvious scam. So instead of just being at 3,300 and they have to buy it at 3,300, they drop it to 32.75. So when they buy it at 32.75, now it's back to 32.90. They make money on it, even though it hasn't really moved. And we wonder if the stock market's fixed and if pro games or sports are fixed. All right. So basketball, we nail it. We have the Knicks. I think they're laying 2.5. Doesn't matter. They won by 20. One of my easier picks. Let's see. Knicks win 111.94. Superstar duo shows out with season on the line. Season on the line. They had to win, and Indy could lose. And this is what Prophet was talking about when we bet Indy in Game 4, saying, no, they couldn't really afford to lose because then they would have to go to New York. And now if they would have done that, New York would now be up 3-2. So with the back, excuse me. So with the back against the wall, and Indy up 3-1. So Indy could lose. Now they're up 3-2, and they go home for game 6. And that's what they're focusing on. The Knicks couldn't afford to lose. They'd be out of the series. So they're going to play their best. Is their best good? With Minnesota, it wasn't. Here, we did have them at home. So we hit New York very easily, 111-94. I wasn't watching, I can't get the game, but I was watching the score, and they were up 15-20. It was very comfortable. Third quarter, they were up 20. There was no doubt, and then Indy starts probably resting their players. So that was an easy winner, and we wish all games are that easy. And now we go to Saturday, so nothing today because OKC is clinched. We got New York at Indy. I don't have a line. I assume Indy will be 4 or 5 point favorites. And we're going to take Indy in game 6. Indy has to win. They're at home. But I do think it'll be a closer game. I think the Knicks kind of panicked, kind of won, and now I think they kind of realize what they got to do. And I look for Indy to give their best effort because they don't know they have to win, right? This is it. They saw what happened in Game 5 in New York. They got killed. If they lose this game, then they got to go to New York and play Game 7. And I would say the odds of them winning that game, if they lose 3, if they lost yesterday, if they lose this game and got to go play Game 7 in New York, they're not winning because now New York's got their numbers. So look for Indy to play their best game and win and get it over with. Right? Indy's been the better team. They're up 3-2. But this is kind of it's weird, but their backs are really against the wall because they know they have to, if they don't win, then they'll probably lose the series. So you really have to read between the lines to see what's happening, right? You have to read, well, they can afford to lose. As Prophet says, well, if they can lose game 6 because they're up 3-2, New York has to win. But it's where's the game at is also critical. So we like Indy in game 6. We had New York in game 5. And it's really just psychological. Who needs it? They're going to be hungrier. But can they do it? Are they a good enough team to get the win? Baseball yesterday. We've got 4 winners and 1 loser, and the 1 loser was our play. Philly under 7.5. Chris Sale against. This was today. Chris Sale against Philly's ace, and Philly's ace didn't show up. Well, what's the score? So Philly wins game 1, 5-4. We have Philly over 8. Game 2, Atlanta wins 9-3. Sale against Zach Wheeler, and Zach Wheeler with his 2.96 ERA doesn't show up. Philly under 7.5, 2-unit, didn't win. Oakland, Texas. Oakland over 8.5. Texas wins 12-0. Oakland's slumping. Houston over 8.5. Tampa Bay wins 13-3. 2 bad pitchers, and then Seattle over 7.5. And Seattle, Washington wins 9-3. A big 10th inning. So we got 4 winners and 1 loser. And it's odd as the 1 loser was our pick based on both pitchers. Chris Sale pitched well, and Wheeler gave up a few runs, but it was the bullpen came in and got killed. So this is where baseball's hard, is the pitchers who come in They pitched 5 innings, and then they pitch 5 innings, and then the bullpen blows it. Sometimes they blow it, and the bullpen doesn't blow it, pitches well. One mistake I probably made was it was the second game of a doubleheader. So they're tired, right? Now, I don't know if Zach Wheeler got to the game for game one. I would assume he came later, but the bullpen was there, and they probably were tired. And the hitting must do better than the pitching when they're tired, obviously. So anyway, good bet, yes. Did it win? No. And you're dealing with managers. Who want to use analytics and all that shit. So there's nothing we can do. All right. Today, May 30th. It's 11:48. This is 2:20 is the first game. Cincinnati at the Cubs. Both can hit. Cubs 169. Andrew Abbott 4-0 with the 170 for Cincinnati. Colin Ray 3-1 with the 3.28. But every time I go under in Colin Ray, he always has a bad game. Andrew Abbott he's a starter, 5'6", 4, 5. He doesn't go more than 6. He's really had one bad outing against Colorado, of all teams, to give up 4 runs to. Everybody else has won. St. Louis, Atlanta shut him out. Cleveland shut him out. The Cubbies gave up 1 run. So this Abbott's really good. Colin Ray. I don't know why the page flicks when you're about to hit click on it. Yeah, see, he's got a low ERA, but he's given up 5 runs to the 49ers May 6th, then 2 runs to Miami, 1 run to the White Sox, and then 6 runs to Cincinnati last game. And here he's got Cincinnati again. So obviously Cincinnati can hit him. The game's in Wrigley. This Andrew Abbott is electrifying. The Cubs are 160. I got to take Cincinnati here. That's crazy. They're a very live dog with this pitcher. And Colin Ray. So we actually have a matchup where Colin Ray played Cincinnati last time, gave up 6 runs. So we think he'll probably give up a lot of runs this time, or you can ignore his 3.28 ERA because against Cincinnati, he gave up a lot of runs. So first game, Cincinnati. I think they're hot. I think they're on a streak. Cubs take on the Reds on home winning streak. Oh, the Cubs have the winning streak. I guess. I don't know. Where's the article? Well, I don't care. It's more that they're playing. They're playing Cincinnati. All right. So we got Cincy. The White Sox against Baltimore. Baltimore minus 220 and 9. Sean Burke 3-5 with the 4.33 against Zach Eflin 3-2 with the 5.40. Pretty bad here. The White Sox don't hit though. They got one hitter. I'll have to update that. I'll do it this weekend. But it changes a lot, but it's going to get more clean because of as they get more at bats, the batting averages don't change that much. But I am shocked that all of a sudden the guy's hitting 280, and you look 2 weeks later he's hitting 230. Like, what the hell happened? All right, but it's because they play different pitchers. That's the thing with baseball. There's so many different pitchers. You hit some, you don't hit some. That's why the averages move around. Unlike football, it's always Mahomes, it's always Burrow, it's always Josh Allen. Drain around here. Let's go over 9, but I really don't like it. I don't really like anything here. Burke with the White Sox 4.33 ERA, Zach Eflin 5.40. I can't play a team. And they just don't hit well enough to think you're going to get over, but we'll play over, but just because of bad pitching. Milwaukee at Philly, very interesting series. Philly minus 135 and 9.5. DJ Hall 1-0 with a 3.86 against Taijuan Walker 2-3 with the 2.97. What I'm noticing, Milwaukee has a pretty good bullpen. Philly, the bullpen I saw yesterday was terrible. So I don't know what to do off of a doubleheader. So their pitchers are pretty much so. Yeah, let's go over. Well, I can't go over. Taijuan Walker with the 2.97. Yeah, we're gonna go over. Philly over 9.5, but I don't like it. The reason is because of the doubleheader. The bullpen's probably tired. And Milwaukee, pretty good bullpen. Philly can hit. I don't know. No rhyme or reason here. Oakland at Toronto. Toronto 175, 8.5. Jeffrey Springs 5-3, 3.97. Chris Bassett 4-3 with a 3.38. Oakland's been on a losing streak, so we're going to take Toronto. And we'll go 2 units taking Toronto. The 49ers go to the Dolphins in a inter country game. The Niners are 175 and 8.5 in Miami. Very surprising. Kyle Harrison, 0-1 with a 3.86, goes against Cal Quantrill, 3-4 with a 6.09. We're going over here. This will be 2 units, over 8.5. I got 2 very good hitting teams, and I've got no pitching. Cal Quantrill with a 6.09 and Kyle Harrison 3.86. And the thing is with pitching, every once in a while, the guy throws a shutout, then gives up 1 or 2 runs, and then he gives up 6. Which guy are we getting? And that's why I like that Cincinnati game, is because Colin Ray had a bad game. He's like 1-1-1 and then gave up 6 to Cincinnati, and you got Cincinnati again. So they will hit him. That's really what you're looking for. The pitcher against a certain team, how are they going to play? Colorado and the Mets. The Mets minus 350, 7.5. Kyle Freeland, 0-7 with the 5.86. What is this guy still pitching for? All right, you're 0-7, but you got a 5.86 ERA after all this. Jesus. David Peterson, 3-2 with the 2.79. The Mets, however, are a 350 favorite, 7.5. Colorado, terrible on the road. We got to take the METS, Mets, 2 units. Yes, I know it's 350, and I don't know what to do about it. But at the end of the day, they are 250, and you have to – I think it goes down to – I hear, well, I don't want to lay 300 or 350, but I'll lay 5,000 to 1 on Alabama or Georgia in college football. I think it just comes down to if you think you're going to win. If you think you're going to win and get away with laying 350 to win 100, then you got to do it. Well, what if it loses? Well, what if So what if it's, what is it? You only bet on 150s to win 100 or 175? I mean, you've got to deal with money lines. So at the end of the day, you're playing money lines. Now you want to just play dogs, but I don't know that the strategy, if I don't like to play 350, because if I lose 350, really holds any water. Question is, do you win on the game? And I know some 350s aren't real, but this one is. Kyle Freeland, 0-7 with the 5.86. David Peterson, 3-2 with the 2.79. This is a worth the 350, I think. I don't really know where to go over under because the Mets could get you 8 runs and win 8-0. Colorado's not going to score a lot. They don't hit anyway. But I think at the end of the day, the Mets win the game because Colorado's won 9 games. And I think when you bet against a team that's 9-47, wondering if they'll ever win 10 games all year, you're going to face 350 odds. But if you did that, you'd be, let's say you were wrong 9 times and right 47 times. Right? 47 times they've lost. So, and they, I'm sure, weren't all 350 when they lost. California and Cleveland. Cleveland 145, 8.5. Jose Soriano, 3-5 with a 3.73 against Luis Ortiz, 2-5 with the 4.73. We know Cleveland, dynamite bullpen. We saw it against the Tigers. They've got a couple of hitters. California has got a couple of hitters. 8.5. We'll go under. We'll go Cleveland under just because of their bullpen, although I don't really like this game too much. Boston and Atlanta. Atlanta minus 169.5. Just, I believe they swept the Eagles yesterday. Back at home, they've been playing really well. Lucas Giolito, 1-1 with the 5.27 for Boston, and Grant Holmes 3-3 with the 3.68. Now here we got Atlanta 160. But I like the over under 9.5. So we're going to go over here. Atlanta over 9.5. Now that's good. We got 2 pretty good hitting teams. I wish it was in Fenway. Let's take a look at yesterday. Did Philly win? Philly won 5-4. Okay, it was a split. My mistake. But Atlanta did beat the good pitcher. All right. So, yeah, I think over. Atlanta's hit the hell out of Philadelphia, and they beat their ace, Zach Wheeler. They put up 9 on him. So, yeah, Boston's been hitting. Yeah, I see that. This is a good. The pitchers are okay, not great. You got a 5 ERA and a 3.36 ERA and 2 good hitting teams. So that's where I like it. The problem is when you get a weak hitting team and against a weak pitcher, you don't know if they're going to score enough to get your over. Here, I think we should. And that's why it's a bet. When I don't really like it, like the Baltimore game, I just don't play it. But when everything lines up, I like it. St. Louis in Texas. St. Louis 135, 8.5. Matthew Liberatari 3-3 with the 2.73. Zach Leader 3-2, 4. Texas has been playing like shit lately. I'm gonna go under here. Texas just doesn't hit. Under 8.5. No bet. Could be a bet, but I'm not going to make it. But I think it's an under. Just Texas doesn't hit. They've got, I don't know. I say 5 hitters, but I don't think they have 5. I think what I've been doing is if they got 250 hitters, I've been calling them hitters, but not lately. They look terrible. Tampa Bay at Houston. This was a very high-scoring game. I think Tampa Bay won yesterday. Yeah, Houston over 8. Tampa won like 13-1. Tampa 170 or Houston 177.5. Ryan Peapot 3-5 with the 3.55 against Framler Valdez 4-4 with the 3.39. I'm going over again. T-Bay over 7.5. No bet. Detroit goes to Kansas City. Detroit's a 120 favorite, 8.5. This is a very strong must win for Kansas City. They are right now 7 games behind Detroit. It's still early, but they've got to start coming. So look for KC to play them good. Casey Mize 6-1 with the 2.45. Seth Lugo 3-4 with the 3.02. We're going to go under here. Under 8.5. I'll go 2 units. KC Mize very inconsistent. Better at home. Detroit's a better home team than a road team. KC, good pitching. Lugo 3.02. So I think this will be a low scoring game, Detroit. But Detroit, you never know. You don't know what the lineup is every day. He's got 200 hitters hitting third, then he's got 280 hitters hitting third. He's all over the place, this manager. He pinch hits a 300 hitter with a 100 hitter because they bring in a lefty or a righty. It's ridiculous. I don't understand it. So we'll take KC under. Hey, profit. That game within 1 game of running the table last night. Only miss was Dallas and hockey. I'll teach you about hockey. Didn't somebody get injured? I thought an Edmonton guy got hurt or something. Well, in baseball, I was 4-1. I came within 1 game of running the table, but the 1 game was the one bet I made. Philly under in game 2. Well, good for you. I mean, well, maybe it was not even that game. It might have been prior. I thought I heard where Edmonton lost a good player, but it was during the day. So I don't think it was in the game at night. I think it was a prior game or something. How are the Canadian Habs doing? Is Patrick Roy still there? All right. Washington goes to Arizona. We got Arizona 225-9. See, there's a big difference. The 350s against Colorado, and they've won 9 games. Here, Washington's 26-30. Arizona 27-29. There's a big difference laying 225 in this game. Jake Irvin for Washington, 4-1 with the 3.42. Merrill Kelly 5-2 with. I don't get why Arizona is this big of a favorite. Maybe there's an injury. I don't know to the player. I'm not paying that much attention. Oilers should win the cup this year. Is Gretzky back on Edmonton? Mark Messier. So I don't get this line. This seems like a very strong line. I'm going to take Washington because of the odds. I mean, I don't see justified to take Arizona. I got a 3.42 pitcher for Washington and a 3.52 pitcher for Arizona. And it's a 9, and these teams are even. So here's where I'm taking the dog. Pittsburgh, San Diego. We hit Paul Scanes. We finally won with Paul Scanes the other day. San Diego minus 277.5. Mitch Keller 1-6 with the 3, but a good ERA 3.66. Nick Pivetta 5-2 with the 2.72. We're going to go under in this game. San Diego under 7.5. Pitt doesn't hit very well, but Mitch Keller, even though he's 1-6, has a 3.66 ERA. He's got a good ERA. Nick Pivetta 5-2 with the 2.72. So I think with this, and the fact Pitt doesn't hit well, I think we can go. I think it's close enough where it's hard to say San Diego is going to definitely win at a minus 200. So here I will go under. The Yanks and the Dodgers. Oh, the bigs. Oh my God. All right. Yankees minus 120-9. But who do we have pitching? Max Fried, 7-0 with a 1.29. Best pitcher in the league. Tony Gonzalez, 2-1 with the 4.68. This is an easy one. We're taking the Yanks, and we'll go 3 units. And this is what I say. He will shut down Ohtani and Freddie Freeman and those guys. A good pitcher will shut you down. And that's what you got in Max Fried. Gonzalez, 2-1 with the 4.68. The big series. Judge, this probably stays under, but here's where you've got to understand the pitching. Why would this total be 9? Oh, the Dodgers have good offense. Not tonight, they're not. You're not going to hit Max Fried. He's got a 1.29 ERA. Nobody hits the guy. Excellent pitcher, best in the league, and that's what you're looking for. And you're betting on Max Fried. This is what I talk about when we bet on Mahomes and we bet on Joe Burrow and we bet on Lawrence Taylor. We bet on Montana. We bet on Parcells. We bet on Bill Walsh. We bet on Lombardi. This is what it's all about. Finding that gold standard, finding the star, and you bet on them. You finally found them, and you jump on them. Now, you can't bet on them all the time, but in this situation, only laying 120. This will be the cheapest price you'll get them at. The Dodgers don't have a chance in this game hitting him. Now, the question comes in, do we get 7 innings or do we get 8 innings? And then the bullpen comes in. How good is the bullpen? That's the risk. All right, he shuts them out for 7 innings, and we're like, okay, we're up 2-0. And then here come the bullpen. Which bullpen do we get? The one that shuts them out or the one that gives up 5 runs? That's why baseball is so hard to bet. It's not betting on Fried. It's the next. So I think there's a 5-inning thing. I would jump on Fried for 5 innings. That's gold. But for a whole game, the managers are fucking it up. The analytics are fucking it up. Oh, it's 100 pitches. Matt Fried could pitch 150 pitches. It wouldn't matter if you just let him. So very stupid. So that's our lock of the day. Take the Yanks money line, only 120. And forget the Dodger hitting. They're not going to hit them. The good pitcher will always get the good hitter out. In our last game, Minnesota and Seattle. Seattle 145-7. Zebby Matthews, oh my God, 0-1 with a 7.71. How could a guy be named Zebby in the league? We got Ric Flair going 5-2 with the 2. Okay, so we're taking Seattle, and that's going to be we'll go 3 innings there against Zebby. Parlay, Yankees, Seattle. It's a beautiful parlay right there. Yankees with Fried and Ric Flair for Seattle. You got their 2 aces going. 5-2 with the 2.69, but Minnesota's got Zebby Matthews 0-1 with the 7.71 going. So Seattle should feast, hit often. Yankees just let Fried go 9 innings, and you got to win. So there you go. That's my first parlay. It would be a teaser, but I don't. Can I tease this? Can I take the Yanks in 4 runs and Seattle in 4 runs, or a 6-team teaser, a 6-point teaser? I got the Yanks in 6 with Seattle +6. If only there was teasers in baseball. So there you go. Those are the best 2. So let's go through the games. Cincinnati, Baltimore over 9, Philly over 9.5, Toronto, the 49ers over 8.5, the METS, Jets, Cleveland under 8.5, Atlanta over 9.5, St. Louis under 8.5, Tampa Bay over 7.5, KC under 8.5, Washington, San Diego under 7.5, the Yanks and Seattle, the bets, Toronto 2 units, the 49ers over 8.5, the JETS, Mets, Atlanta over 9.5, Kansas City under 8.5, and then the big plays are the Yanks and Seattle are both the 3 unit, the others are 2. So again, we found 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games. I don't look for games. They pop out at me. Max Fried pitching, I'm betting him. Ric Flair's pitching, I'm betting on him. And that's really all it is. It depends on the pitcher. If they're not, I'm not. I might not bet it. But if I got the right pitcher against the wrong pitcher, then you go with it. Simple as that. No basketball tonight. Basketball tomorrow. Indy to win the series. Do or die at home. They die tomorrow. They're not winning the series. The Knicks will win the series. So be careful with that one. So it's all Indy. They have to win. Even though they're up 3-2, their back are against the wall because they're at home and go to New York the next game. So that's really how it works. Sometimes it doesn't work that way, but that's how it works. So there is your sports, the baseball, the basketball, anything new in football. I don't think so. I looked last night. Aaron Rodgers, he's probably just going to wait till spring, spring training. He's probably going to wait till training camp. He probably doesn't want to even play in training camp, so he might wait till a week before the season. But he's probably telling Pitt, I'm going to play, so don't worry, but I'm not coming until training camp's over. NFL is the ultimate copycat league. What trends will we see in 225? Who cares? What's a busy backfield? I don't even want to know. Preseason games to watch. Top 10 preseason games to watch. None. Matt LaFleur almost took the bait on the Jordan Love drop-off narrative. Well, he did drop off. He's not really that good. But I don't. You're not winning anything with Jordan Love. He's no Mahomes. He's no Joe Burrow. Let's not go there with him. He's a decent quarterback on a good system with a good offensive coach. On the Jets, he'd be terrible. On a lot of teams, he'd be terrible. Why Patrick Mahomes, Matthew Stafford don't want to play Olympic flag football? Because it's stupid. You want to play in the Super Bowl. You don't want to play a flag football. Kyle Shanahan says running back Christian McCaffrey is as healthy as can be. This is critical for us. Healthy as can be, says 49ers coach from OTAs. As healthy as can be. So is that as healthy? Is that very healthy? Due to the Achilles tendonitis in both ankles and a right knee injury, preventing him making any explosive movements or cuts. Jesus. McCaffrey's sharp cuts and showing burst out of that. All right, so we got McCaffrey back. That's huge because if you have the running game, you have the passing game, Purdy will be much better. If you're thinking of betting the Niners and these totals, bet them over. And if you're thinking about who's going to win the West, it's the 49ers and the Rams right now. But that's huge. Having McCaffrey there is huge. Yeah, they lost their receiver, Debo Samuel, but they still have Kittle. They have Ayuk, and they have other receivers, although the one they drafted last year is terrible. Will Levis says his situation sucks after Titans draft #1 pick Cam Ward. Cam Ward won't do very well, but Levis stinks anyway. Can Aaron Rodgers succeed if he waits until late summer to sign? Absolutely. Patriots coach Mike Vrabel addresses viral Stephon Diggs yacht video. Don't want to go there. Steelers reportedly eyeing tight end Jonnu Smith and potential trade. Who the hell is that? Lions set for practices with Dolphins in Texas this summer. This is so stupid. So you practice other teams. Instead of the preseason, you play in these practices without pads and nobody's tackling. It's so stupid. John Harbaugh, I want to see. Isaiah likely be an all-pro, whatever. Sean Payton, Austin Estimine didn't have enough. Didn't have enough opportunities last year. Well, you're the coach, Sean Payton. Give him. That's the guy from Notre Dame. All right, that's sports. All right. Let's go to MMcgwire. There's one I want to watch here. Did the CIA create Bitcoin? But it's 9 minutes. But I'm not. I'm not going to watch it here. I'm going to watch it, and then if it's any good, I'll play it tomorrow. Prime Junior looked very good in minicamp yesterday. What does that mean? He looked good. They're in shorts. There's nobody rushing him. Well, what do you mean he looked very good? That's Dylan Gabriel looked like. It's a meaningless thing you're telling me. All right.
One thing that has held me.
Nobody cares. All right. MMcgwire, 40 minutes. We talked about 44 nations joining BRICS. Gold, gold, gold. Just hold on to it. Here we go. All right. MMcgwire.
Yes, spoiler alert. China is capitalizing on all this.
All right. Basel 3. Follow the yellow bricks road. BRICS is China, Russia. Here's a comment. I find it difficult to follow, Mark. I'm not a dummy, but the English used is very convoluting. Simple sentences can often tell the same story better. It's not. It's. He's talking bank language. When he talks rinse and dry on the options, casino chips. He's trying to use casino as the example, like I use Titanic. Only the example he's using is doesn't make a lot. It's very very convoluted. He talks bank language. I talk English. He threw 3 touchdown passes and had the last numbers. Oh, I got to say hi to Daria. He threw 3 touchdown passes and had the best numbers of the 4 quarterbacks. Gabriel also looked good. All right, profit. Just 1 second, people. Okay, sorry about that. With Daria, you never know when you get her. But she sees I send the pictures, so she knows I'm around and teaching. Gabriel also looked very good. Well, who are they playing against? Miles Garrett is not trying to sack them. I doubt they're even in full pads. So the fact he can throw it in, big deal. There's Gabriel. Joe Flacco probably will start because he's got the experience. So anyway, I was going to show Mark McGuire. So don't read too much into it, Prophet. When he plays Baltimore and Pittsburgh and he can throw 3 touchdowns and no interceptions, then I will listen to you. What he does in minicamp, which I doubt is more than 7-on-7 in gym shorts and a t-shirt, of course he can complete passes. I mean, that's not the issue. It's how does he play under pressure? When they blitz him, can he read the blitz? Can he read the defense? That's what we're looking for. We don't care about little 7-on-7 drills. He threw touchdown passes. It's not the game, and we are not big on Prime Jr. We're much bigger on Dylan Gabriel. Prime Jr.'s biggest problem is quarterback pressure. He is sacked more than anyone in college football. Well, and he can't read. He can't read a defense, and he can't read anything else. And that's really the problem. That's the problem with Lamar. He goes back and he wants to run. He can't read his receivers. He can't read the defense. That's why he throws 3-4 interceptions against Buffalo in the playoff game. That practices, it's just for timing, or these pre-draft, everybody goes in shorts and a t-shirt and you start drafting players based on that. You're out of your mind. They don't know what they're doing. And he'll have less time to throw in the game. Well, in the pros, that's my point. If he's not that good in college, if you don't get better in the pros, you get worse. And that's where Will Levis, I mean, Cam Ward's not very good. So wait till he starts seeing Houston. Houston with the killer defense. Pittsburgh, Baltimore, Buffalo, Kansas City, Denver, San Diego, and the Raiders. So he'll have trouble with those teams if you can't read. The thing about Tom Brady and Joe Montana and Aaron Rodgers, what did Tom Brady do to Seattle? He got the ball off in 2 seconds. Do you ever see Caleb or CJ Stroud or Prime Jr. here get rid of the ball in 2 seconds? He knew where the blitz was coming from, and he called out the hot receiver and threw it. That's it. That's it. That's the point. You've got to see the defense, go, there it is. Tell your receiver to go to that spot because he's coming, and you throw it there. 2 seconds. But if you can't do that, you can't play quarterback. I don't care if you can run or not. It's not going to help. Caleb can't do that. Lamar can't do that. Hurts can't do that. Most of these quarterbacks can't do that. We know Darnold can't do that. And I know Goff can't do that. Stafford probably can. Purdy, I don't know. But with McCaffrey, you can kind of play it cagey. You can play action to him, makes the defense kind of stop. But when you don't have the running back, it's just blitz. That's what Joe Burrow was bitching at. Hey, give me a running back. Let me at least fake the defense so they don't know it's just going to be I'm going to go back and pass because they're going to double team Chase and then they're just coming after me. So that's why that Tajay Brooks was a great draft pick, even though they got him in the 6th round from Texas Tech. That was a great running back. That was a great addition. All right. So yes, Prophet, that's the point. Pros are better than college, and there you go. All right. So what do we have here? We have MMcgwire. Gold, silver, bullish, physical demand rising. Viewer Harry asks about smart money. Basel 3 exposes gold leverage, physical deliveries, unallocated gold drains. China forces physical. Unallocated gold is, I'm not quite sure how to describe it. We'll have to listen. There's allocated and unallocated. Allocated, I think, is good. Unallocated, I think, is the paper. China exploits paper volatility, silver set to explode. Okay. So that's basically it. So let's start with gold, silver. As you has questions, please let me know. And we'll go from there. But basically, this is Basel 3 coming July 1st. Absolutely. And what it means. Just a second. All right, on the mark. So let's start with this, but then, so it's definitely Basel 3. It's definitely BRICS. It's definitely so we're hitting BRICS and COMEX, Basel 3. We're hitting it all here. Please feel free to ask questions. Mark is confusing. I will interrupt to clean up his what he really means. All right, MMcgwire.
I mean, it's hard to even pick one, but there is a very pertinent subscriber question, which really we're going to focus on this time. As you say, let's quickly look. I get so many calls like this, so let's have a very quick look at the gold and silver market footprints since our last episode. And we're recording this episode on Wednesday, the 28th. That's 2 days before this is going. I think this is getting released on Friday, but anyway. And that's so basically, this is one day. Yesterday, there was a multi-billion-dollar mark-to-market options derivative event. All comex driven, basically, where the comex pit managers square up all their bets and in their favor, of course. And so to best illustrate, let's just quickly hop onto the charts as they actually reveal a very constructive scenario. So really just capturing the action. This is Wednesday the 28th. We are between the AM and the PM fix. In fact, the pit just opened a short while ago, for reference of where we are now. Obviously, yesterday we had options expiries for the gold and silver futures, and as per usual, both expiries occurred right smack in the middle of really at the higher band of their respective options sweet spots. So no surprises. Gold settled here. This is what we call COT cutoff. That was the options settlement point. And where were they? With the capping was at 3,300. The price finished at 3,300.40 cents. And if we look at silver, also had an options expiry, although it's not actually in a delivery month. Essentially, that closed at 33,311. And
I'm so happy.
It's pretty much capped at the top of its $33 range. So just to provide a little bit of context as to where we are. And,
Now, the settlement, if you notice, is not on the last day of the month, which would be today. It was actually, I guess, on Tuesday or Wednesday. So it was the 28th or 29th. And I noticed, and I think I made that comment, it went down to 32.60. And I said, it must be the settlement, which it was. And that's why today I'm shocked. It's just sitting there going nowhere. It's just sitting around 3,300. I would have thought we'd be at 3,500 by now. I think part of it is the U.S. needing to buy gold because of the Basel III, which we'll get to shortly on July 1st. So they have to buy physical to pay people who ask for delivery on the contracts. And that's where we're at. So that could be what it is, a lot of buying. If you can find it, I don't know. I don't think there's really a lot to find. I think if they have to buy, they're buying from China. And now if you're tariffing them, I think they're going to sell it to you at 4,000. They're not going to sell it to you at 3,300. So I'm sure there's a premium, but that's what they need. I mean, they need physical gold to pay off all the derivatives. So when there's a lot of gold coming into the U.S., it's not a gold standard. We owe these derivatives. We have to pay them. They're asking to take physical. We must give them physical. That's what all the gold coming in is about, not a gold standard. We do not have 8,000 tons in Fort Knox, and he's going to get to that in a minute. All right.
Really just snapshotting the action post options expiry. So let's have a look at the 4-hour charts. Kind of takes the chatter out of it, basically. But essentially what we have here, as a result of really a two-way rinsing of speculator longs, followed by speculator shorts. In other words, the bulls and the bears. Over the last 4 weeks, what have we got? From the middle of April to the middle of May, towards the end of May, we have a very constructive, bullish consolidation action, basically. And we see both gold and silver really acting, really they're coiling. They're coiling again bullishly. What is really a lack of Western market participation. So in the larger picture, both are establishing higher stair steps. If we go all the way back to when Basel III was implemented in January 2023, a series of higher stair steps all the way up and through. Also evident if we look at the...
So let's talk about Basel III. There was 3 steps, but the girl didn't know what she was talking about. The first step was in Europe. Basel III, step 1 in Europe. You have to cover physical gold for the contracts. The second step was in London, which already happened. And the third step is now July 1st for US. So there's different locations, but China's forcing the issue because they keep buying it and you have to cover. So China is forcing Basel III. So don't think it's not going to happen. Don't think, well, they just won't do anything. No, they have to. Because China has the 60,000 tons of gold. They want to get a much higher gold price. So that's really what's going on. All right.
Daily charts, the monthly charts. And this is where the Bank of International Settlements was launched or sanctioned. This is where the Shanghai Futures Exchange opened. And I mean, just look at the post-Shanghai Futures Exchange action. We, even after a pullback, we see a $1,300 higher gold settlement now. So this is all to do with physical buying. And really, this is what this is all about. Now, we're going to address confusion around the US adoption of Basel III rules that relate to gold, which, for the reasons we're about to present, still point to our long-standing target, which has been, if you know, we've had this in place for months. We've been sharing this here, but also reaffirming the bullish effect that this will have into the end of year target of around 4,500.
All right, thanks, Andrew. Hey, let's start off with the question of the week here we got from Harry.
Harry, what's with the phone?
Hi, Andrew. It's Harry here.
Hey,
Do you
Harry.
anticipate
The
that
fuck's
the
Harry?
smart money will front run July 1st and then sell the news? What prevents the banks from bid pulling after that date? Also, I'm not sure if you're aware, on May 14th, the LBMA stated that gold will not be classified as a Tier 1 HQLA asset on July 1st. Can you talk about why that is not a concern?
Actually, Harry's excellent question is timely, questioning the effect upcoming end of second quarter. Hey, we're just about to enter the last month of the second quarter. So we're looking at the end of the second quarter Basel III US compliance, whether it will or will not, and what it will or will not have on gold. Actually, this is the top question right now. And just as we experienced ahead of the 1st of January 2023, Basel III, global FX market compliance, and never forget the LBMA's protestations leading into it. They went berserk, saying we don't need it. And we're once again encountering a lot of deliberately planted skepticism around the US phase of this compliance process. So further to what we looked at in our last episode, which I think created a lot of questions, I'm going to feed back what we and every single first-tier liquidity provider are gearing up for, because that's where the whale footprints are. Now, while full implementation of Basel III is being delayed in Europe, most of the Basel III package, including, this is important as it relates to gold, has already been adopted in the EU, whereas in the US and the UK, where implementation remains incomplete or paused, we'll deal with all those questions. However, there are three main drivers. Let's just start with the three main drivers that will force global Basel III US compliance. And yes, spoiler alert, China is capitalizing on all this foot dragging that's going on. So first and foremost, allocated gold held in all global vaults is already fully Basel III compliant and meets the standard of both a high quality liquid asset and a first year asset. Now we'll deal with non-compliant unallocated gold shortly, but secondly, looking at the three real major reasons here, the US Treasury has an upcoming gold audit schedule to ensure that the 8,133 tons of vaulted gold, which is supposed to underpin the Treasury's gold revaluation account, the GRA account, has to be Basel III compliant, otherwise it wouldn't comply. And that not only means undertaking a physical bar audit of allocated gold, but also to determine clear title, which is a very important component of that audit. Thirdly, while COMEX and unallocated gold is not NSFR compliant, the exchange for physical mechanism, that's the COMEX backdoor facing the NSFR compliant foreign exchange markets, directly link into allocated gold. As a result, the EFP mechanism is slowly, systematically letting the air out of trillions of dollars of asymmetrically imbalanced Fed-centric bets against gold, largely constrained really to how much of this open interest, the chips in the casino, that can be offset against a shrinking supply of actual COMEX speculators. Now, this process is evident by the series of shrinking supply of speculators, but it's evident by a series of higher physically supported stair steps, forcing the Fed to repatriate gold and pay back Bank of International Settlement bets at a series of higher prices. Furthermore, as we outlined over the last few episodes, Chinese and Asian facing fully allocated physical kilobar markets are 100% Basel III compliant and physically deliverable with these real undiluted supply demand prices increasingly competing with non-Basel III compliant gold. Here is the latest, and note, the upcoming fully compliant Basel III Tier 1 to compete with spot contract, to compete with and highly influence the local London fixes. And I say spot, setting a spot price that is deliverable, fully allocated with the gold. And just read that. The gold is there. So let's dig deeper into Harry's question. As we get closer to US gold also becoming Basel III compliant, the LBMA are once again back up to their tricks, publicly trying to muddy the water between how allocated and unallocated gold are treated. They're attempting to spin that while gold is a level 1 high quality liquid asset, it's not a first tier asset. That's their argument. However, they deliberately ignore the fact that the gold that sets the global facing auction fixes is 100% allocated gold and is both a high quality liquid asset and a first tier asset. So disingenuously, while the LBMA claim to be lobbying for gold to be recognized as a high quality liquid asset, they say, oh, we've been wanting this for years. Absolutely not. It's the polar opposite of what they actually want. It always has been. And because full compliance removes the ability to act as a cartel and to game the current spread between non-compliant, unallocated gold and physical gold. And the reason they are begging for more time to comply is it's really twofold. One, it's very profitable. And two, it buys more time for the Fed to short cover literally billions of embedded deeply underwater, as yet not compliant, unallocated FX gold derivative bets that are evident in the OCC report. These are unallocated positions. Now, this foot dragging to comply is largely, this is really important, at the expense of the captive producers, which these LBMA banks finance. So unallocated gold transactions like forwards, etc., they're netted out amongst the cartel's shared book of business and receive a 20% haircut, which in turn enables them to further leverage these positions at around 100 to 1. Now, historically, these highly leveraged, non-compliant, unallocated gold positions have provided them the necessary bandwidth to eternally roll large cash-settled liabilities long enough to lay them off on the specs into gamed air pockets. This was the subject matter when I went to the FCA, head of the FCA at the time, which was the current governor of the Bank of England, and basically said, hey, what about these eternally rolled positions? They are a high-risk proposition. Now, here's what's interesting. Now, I'm going to put up a couple of links here. CPM Group has tried to remove this 2020 publication titled Bullion Banking Explained. But thanks to GATA, Google searches still find it. In particular, pay attention to the first paragraph on page 3, as it illustrates how, in this case, they talk about silver, how these assets can be collateralized many times over without any physical settlement. Now, this is normal business. So they put it in Bullion Banking Explained. And the resulting deliberately manufactured synthetic volatility enables the cartel to impose unnecessary, highly profitable hedging structures on producers who really shouldn't need it, and refiners and speculators alike. So, as we outlined in our last episode, which I will sum up quickly, comex futures contracts to spot exchange for physicals can be forward sold to lock in the EFP premium. So at the beginning of a contract, you may have a $50 premium on a further out contract versus spot. So you sell it and wait for it to come to fruition and try and keep that as profit. But it also gives you bandwidth to play the game. So bearing in mind that the market makers have a footprint in both the CME and the LBMA markets. Now, they can then capitalize on short selling the non-Basel III 15% comex-centric haircut, balanced, and I put balanced in inverted here, against an albeit asymmetrically imbalanced, so-called hedged NSFR-compliant long FX gold position, which should be, if called upon, deliverable. So not only has the LBMA been able to capitalize on the 20% unallocated FX gold haircut, because it's unallocated, and which they net out amongst the ring-fence cartel's books, but their COMEX footprint also treats gold as fully unallocated. So net of the open interest that is EFP'd into a full Basel III compliance at the AM and the PM fixes for physical delivery, the combination of these haircuts provides them the ability to game both sides with relative impunity, largely at the expense of the captive producers. So is it any wonder the RBMA cartel members, sanctioned by the Fed, are doing everything they can to delay the full implementation of Basel III rules that is ultimately going to force the unallocated gold scam to be fully paid up at a real undiluted supply-demand price? And as we evidenced in their now infamous begging letter, which we published back before they were pleading to the PRA before that we don't need to be compliant, and then they were pleading to block allocated gold from being classified as a first-tier high-quality liquid asset ahead of the 1st of January 2023 compliance date, furiously lobbying, even in a letter where they said, and one of the key lines there, they're saying where unnecessary, this could be unnecessary and could force some banks, quote, including clearing banks, to stop trading. They were threatening the collapse of the entire LBMA system. Now, they failed to block allocated gold from being redesignated as both a high-quality liquid asset and a first-tier asset class. So, in other words, their threats were completely manufactured. And the reason they are once again all over the wires, begging for more time while downplaying the price effect of full compliance, because the liquidity providers providing liquidity at the global gold auctions, which is the fixes, they have to be allocated first-tier high-quality liquid assets bullion. It has to be, because it's being physically delivered on a T+1 basis, forcing non-compliant unallocated gold to be fully funded and delivered. So if it isn't there, they have to grab this unallocated gold and force it to be deleveraged. So what really is the deleveraging of the COMEX EFP 15% haircut, as well as the related 20% LBMA unallocated gold haircut that is being gained. In the meantime, Beijing and a growing number of Western-facing physical exchanges, as you've just seen, are busy capitalizing on this foot-dragging process.
Now, Andrew, was it not, correct me if I'm wrong here, but was it not COVID that forced the BIS to impose this Basel III compliance?
Yeah, absolutely, Shane. It's often forgotten, though, that why the BIS stepped in the first place to force liquidity providers to comply with full Basel III compliance, basically. And the requirement to have vaulted allocated gold available to physically deliver at the auctions arose really after the COVID supply shock exposed the highly leveraged LBMA bullion banks as.
So that's really the key that we're looking for, is that they have to have the physical gold and silver in the warehouse to cover when people go for delivery. That is the key because they are very, very short in supply. So if they need 100 tons and there's only 50, where are you going to get the other 50 tons? But you have to cover. And that's why silver and gold, that's why gold's been going through the roof and why silver will soon. It's mostly US. But if they have to cover the options with physical, they have to get it. And they're 30,000 tons short. And it's going to cost them a lot more than the $33 price. And it'll blow up the 8 bullion banks. And that's why you haven't seen it, because the bullion banks are fighting. Because once it hits 36, it's going to 100, and the bullion banks are broke because they have to come up with the silver that they don't have. So it's been a big game. It's been a bullshit game for us. There's two sides to the coin. One, why isn't the price going up? Two, we can still buy it at these cheap prices, especially silver. And that's really how you have to look at it, because they haven't bought the silver to cover these contracts. And now everybody's asking for delivery. So that's the critical point that why we're so excited about July 1st. They'll have to get the physical to cover because they will ask for delivery. And that's where the US is fucked.
Unable to deliver their unallocated gold at the fixes when called upon to deliver. So right, for all the wrong reasons. Eh? Now, unlike commodities, which receive a 15% haircut, gold forms a component of an interconnected global FX cross against the dollar, where obviously people forget it's not a commodity. One side is long, the other side is short in the FX market, so both have to be liquid enough to balance each out, and they are settled. So FX gold is money, trading as an FX currency cross, where gold is auctioned twice a day and a price settled against the dollar. Now, unlike a stock or commodity or the commodity markets, global FX markets cannot be halted, and there is always a price for each side of a foreign exchange cross. There just has to be. Now, the COVID imbalance exposed these monetary gold longs as undeliverable, unallocated positions. And at the time, FX trade had a T+3 3-day to physically deliver protocol. But unlike T+3 cash, gold could not be printed, which is what drove these banks to race all at once to short cover these asymmetrically imbalanced futures hedges, driving a massive $100 per ounce premium to close these so-called hedges, illustrating the 100 to 1 ounces of paper gold backing up each ounce held by these LBMA banks. So exposed. However, after COVID had exposed that the long side of the short dollar trade was almost entirely composed of unallocated gold held by the too big to fail LBMA bullion banks, it was so far too highly leveraged to be physically delivered. And that's what almost brought the entire interconnected 2 quadrillion global derivative deck of cards tumbling down. This is such a big marketplace. You take down gold, you've taken down the anchor for every other market. And the task set for Basel III was, and still is, to de-risk the global banking system, with a significant danger detected, and it is in the multi-trillion-dollar uneven gold derivative position. That's why they acted. That's why it has to be dealt with. And to give an idea of scale, if you remember, we used to see 600 to 800 tons of unallocated gold a day being netted out amongst the LBMA Bullion Bank's books. And there was only ever a fraction delivered. I think 3 to 5 tons was a good day against this up to 800 tons of movement. So when COVID refinery lockdowns disrupted the supply chain, it exposed the entire daisy chain of too big to fail banks to unhedged delivery obligations they just couldn't fulfill, exposing them to a black swan default event. We're talking about too big to fail taxpayer insured banks. Now, the BIS was forced to sanction the bailout of several first-tier too big to fail LBMA bullion banks. And HSBC was 200 million, and so on and so forth. But the second-tier banks were thrown under the bus. and they lost a huge amount of money buying back their imbalanced future shorts into a bid-only market. So it was only the agent banks that got first-tier agent banks that got bailed out. A lot of them just exited the business, and those that did return did wait for Basel III compliance to be implemented in January 2023. But none of these second-tier LBMA banks continue to trade unallocated gold. So really, in summary, what the LBMA are trying to spin now is that unallocated gold held as a collateral amongst the clearing banks is subject to a haircut, while ignoring completely gold-facing central bank and institutional demand at the fixes is allocated and deliverable. And what's happening is draining unallocated gold out of the system faster than the LBMA can cover their imbalanced, over-collateralized positions. You've got all the data there. You've got the bullion bankers explained. It's clear as a bell. China is already doing Basel III work by way of alchemizing the West's non-compliant unallocated gold and forcing delivery at the fixes. So this kind of brings us on to US compliance, which is really where we've seen a lot of skepticism. The US Treasury has an upcoming gold audit to ensure that the 8,133 tons of vaulted gold that populates the GRA account, the gold revaluation account, is Basel III compliant. It has to be. So summing up Harry's question, just as there was skepticism around the bullish for gold price appreciation ahead of Basel III in January 2023, there is similar skepticism that US Basel III compliance will influence gold at this time. But just like last time, the skepticism is entirely US-centric, failing to look at what has spilled over into the technically NSFR compliant FX and short, the FX, the technically NSFR compliant FX short OCC positions. They have to be covered. And the upcoming US Treasury gold revaluation from $42 to an average of what the current bullion banks estimate is going to raise well over $1 trillion, but has to be completed ahead of the necessary upcoming audit, where Basel III compliance would be required for the US Treasury to exercise its GRA opportunity to revalue gold to market. And it's far better to buy back lease swap gold right now in the 3,000s than at 4,000 or 5,000. So what really counts is at the global facing fixes. I have to really underscore at the global facing fixes, the Basel III compliant fixes are in full first tier NSFR compliant and are forced to be deliverable. Any discrepancy between the COMEX generated paper market price and the physical price is immediately being alchemized. Hence, the ever tightening Asia buys, West sells, noose tightens on the mispriced Western markets. So to answer Harry's final part of the question, there's nothing to front run. The LBMA's already done their utmost to pull bids and sell the news. One only has to look at the lack of Western market participation to evidence that. You see it in this link. Now, our well-connected liquidity providers affirm that the current US-centric haircut that separates US-priced ETF gold from NSFR-compliant gold will have to seriously unwind into the end of the quarter, or into the beginning of the new quarter. And if the COMEX price doesn't start to align with the 10 times larger spot gold FX market price at the benchmark global fixes, then the backdoor EFPs, where it's possible to convert a non-compliant COMEX unallocated block into an NSFR compliant T+1 deliverable FX position, is going to be drained, alchemizing what little dwindling underpriced COMEX open interest actually remains. So given the OCC bets sit on the Fed's balance sheet and are likely interconnected with the rehypothecated US Treasury gold positions, it's better to continue to let the air out slowly. And this is what we're evidencing now. Like it or lump it, as far as gold is concerned, Basel III will be forced upon the West by China and by, as we showed earlier, a series of Western-facing physical exchanges where you have to own a bar, has to be fully collateralized for it to even trade as a spot FX position, and it can be immediately delivered.
Hey, Andrew, first of all, thanks for answering Harry's question in such detail. And Harry, thank you for asking the question, but I want to tell you, it was mere.
So that should relieve any concerns you have that gold 4,500, 5,000, silver will be jumping over 100. Basel III will be hitting July 1st. There's nothing they can do to stop it. China is on the way. And if the U.S. doesn't, that's why you're seeing it not go anywhere for the last 2 or 3 weeks where it's just sitting at 3,300. The U.S. has to buy because they have all these options that they can't cover. I think that's the unallocated. So you're allocating gold to the option. So there's all these options that you don't have gold for. And that's what the U.S. has to do is cover the options by July 1st that they haven't covered. And that's a shitload, and especially in silver. So the U.S. is fucked. China will sit there, and China is really pushing it. So China is actually on our side making sure this happens. So July 1st, we'll see if it happens that day or within the first couple, 2-3 weeks of it. We should definitely see gold 4,500. Silver, my guess will be at least 100. If not, it might run all the way to 200 or 300. I'm not sure. I'm counting on silver. I'm counting on silver like 700 soon. But we'll see. I don't know how fast it'll move. It's so undervalued now. It's sickening. So we are actually incredibly lucky to be at where we are now with the sale of the century going on. To be able to get even gold at 3,300 is a steal. It should be 10 grand, right? To get silver at $35 an ounce is incredible. It's the no-brainer of no-brainers. That's like getting Mahomes plus 10 and against the Lions or something. I mean, it's a joke. I want to show you something. We're going to go to COMEX for a minute. All right, so I want to show you something. So the idea is, as I say, it's not that gold's $1,000. It's what does the $1,000 buy? We'll go back to Mark McGuire in a second. So gold's 32.92 in US dollars. What is gold? Let's put gold as rubles. Gold as rubles is 25,000 an ounce. No, it's 253,000 an ounce. Right? So if you have a Russian ounce of gold and in rubles, it's 253,470. You think, oh, wow, that's great. But it's not worth anything. This is the biggest way I can show you inflation. So you think, this is great, 253,000. But that doesn't buy you anything. It's 80-1 to the US dollar. That's the point you've got to kind of realize. So even though it goes up to $100,000, let's say gold's 100,000 an ounce, what will 100,000 buy you? And that's my whole point of inflation right now. You have $100 bill, but it doesn't buy you anything. It's worth $1. This is where gold and silver come in. What will the ounce of gold buy? In Russia, it'll probably buy you a house. It's $253,000 an ounce, and that's well, that really moved. It went from 258,333 to 253. It went down 5,000. Wow, that's a big drop. It went down 5,000 rubles, and at 12 o'clock must be their time. But that's what it shows you. So the fact that gold might be worth 100,000, that really is the true tell of inflation. It's not worth anything, right? Gold is 253 in Russia, 253,000 rubles in Russia. It'll buy you coffee there, right? Well, no, if we take it to dollars, it's $3,300, which in Russia will buy you a lot, but it just shows you now if the ruble gets stronger as they come to gold, you'll see this number move to 100, but it'll be gold, and the gold will buy you a lot more than the 253,000 it does in rubles. So that's the whole point of inflation, is just because it's worth a lot, it's what does it buy you? And that's the point everybody misses. Well, I got 500,000 in my 401k, or Luke's buddy's got 4 million his 401k, but what's it worth? What will it buy you? And as you can see in Russia, not a lot. I give Daria $100 for food, and I doubt she fills her basket, and it's worth $8,000 100 to 3 zeros. So it's 8,000. I give her $100, gives her 8,000 rubles. It's not like she buys enough food for the month. So it's what does the dollar buy? And this is what the governments do with inflation. They print it to zero. And this is my whole point. This is printing it to zero. You have a lot, but it's worthless. The only thing that isn't worthless is gold and silver. The fact it buys 253, it doesn't matter. It's still gold. Gold still holds its value. The ruble doesn't. The Swiss franc doesn't. The dollar doesn't. All the paper values drop, but not gold. Gold goes up, as you can see. It just keeps going up and up and up. And that's really the point. That's the best way to illustrate the inflation, because that's exactly what it is. But against gold, I mean, the ruble was probably 20,000. An ounce probably bought you 20,000 rubles. Now it's 253,000 rubles. But it buys you the same thing it did. They're not worth anything. And that's really the point of the whole exercise that we do here, is get into the gold, because it doesn't lose its value, right? The gold goes up. Now it's 253,000 compared to whatever it was when gold was 2,000, right? So the gold keeps going up. It keeps the value. It's the dollars or the rubles or the wands that lose value, and you need a lot of them to go to the grocery store, where gold is always king. That's the biggest part of gold. How does Bitcoin fit into this? I have no idea. I don't know. I don't know what Bitcoin is, and basically how that would hold its value. I don't see it holding value, because it isn't real. So it might be going up, but again, 253,000 rubles is still worthless. It's the gold that's got the value. So don't get out of the gold. You might want to buy Bitcoin, but you get in and get out, make your profit so you can buy more gold. But you're not selling your gold, because you don't want you missed the bus, right? If you get out of the gold, now you're no good in dollars. You got to buy more gold and hope the price goes down, which it won't, not with Basel III and everything. All right, the last little bit.
I tell you, it was mirrored by many others had the same question, but we chose yours. But everyone, keep those questions coming. Just look for the link below. If you have a question for Andrew, go ahead and ask it. Click that link there below, and you never know, you might get the question.
I don't ask
Now
questions.
back to Andrew.
I tell
Can you tell us
answers.
what else you're seeing in the short term? Now, you had mentioned that you'd notice a change in tactics by China, and this sounds really interesting. Can you tell us more?
Yeah, Shane, into this current comex-centric paper wash and rinse cycle, China changed tactics after. And if you remember, if you look back a couple of weeks, we opened up one morning on a Monday morning with a massive gap below it. There was this huge gap. Well, gaps always get filled, but essentially it has. But essentially, this gap. This was on the 12th of May. So they figured, well, obviously they understand the game, and so they just simply moved from an Asia jumps into buy to, and remember, all the way along we've seen when the West sells at the end of a day, Asia then picks it up and buys it, and so we've been seeing the Asia buying what the West has sold, but what we saw is that there was a change in behavior, which is, so what they're doing is letting the West run the next day with their pre-sold positions, knowing that they would just come in. And so what we would see is China then coming in late in the Asian session to capitalize on the West's bearish skew. And this has been quite evident. No matter how hard the West sold, we evidence consistent and very, very strong showings at all the Asian-facing AM fixes. Now, while the PBOC is completely price insensitive, and they're going to continue to exchange dollars for gold at every global AM and PM fix, doesn't matter what the price is, they're very disciplined. And they also use paper-induced volatility to load up or capitalize on paper-induced volatility to load up official monetary gold reserves without driving the price higher. In other words, they are alchemizing dollar price paper gold into fully paid for 400-ounce bars, which do not populate the COMEX. They do not populate the unallocated, the normal unallocated flows. This is monetary gold, and it's under the radar, the bulk of which avoids reporting requirements. And some of this PBOC buying will actually be reported at the end of this second quarter. Obviously, it's not reported yet. Now, very short term, as we headed into options yesterday, we get more evidence that China is capitalizing on the West's attempt to cap gold below 3,300 at the PM fixes. Once again, I think we've seen it again today. Once again, so what they're doing is buying into the Asian-facing AM fixes and then allowing the West to run with it, and then they'll just pick up the discount. This physical demand is really what drove June gold into backwardation to spot. So the June contract is just about to expire. It has to go into delivery in 2 days. It's into first notice tomorrow. It has to go into delivery. So essentially, that should be trading at the same price as spot. No, spot is commanding at least a $2 premium over this contract as people race to cover.
All right, Andrew, and another big question. A lot of questions coming in about what are you seeing in silver? What about silver, Andy?
Yeah, I knew that was coming, Shane. And good question too. While silver futures have been influenced by the momentum short sellers crossing over their selling activities in gold futures and affecting silver, no bullion bank is naked short silver, with both gold and silver sell-offs have been officially driven and OCC related. So what we're going to do is quickly hop in and have a look at the charts for this. It's much easier. A lot of the synthetic action in silver is buried in this gold-silver trade, this basically the ratio trade, which is currently being unwound from its 120 to 1, 120 ounces to 1 ounce of gold COVID spike. And that was the 2020 highs right here, down to right now into the 98.99 level, which is ridiculously high. And what we're going to see now, I think what's happening is we're seeing this unwind into really the objective is now to try and exit this underwater trade as best as possible. Now, the silver futures pit managers have also been evidenced as ringing the register on freshly added momentum speculator shorts here. So that was sucked in a bunch of momentum sellers and then immediately rang the register. As we know, the comex is run like a casino. Essentially, it's a rigged casino, and essentially 95%, a house will win 95% of the time. And why? Because they finance and take the other side of all the chips borrowed from the casino. So you can automate, once you start a sell ignition, i.e. here there would have been shorts, long stops. Once you've targeted a few, then the short sellers come in, and they're naked short at this point, and they're exactly where they want to pull that register. Ring the register is exactly where. So now this is where we looked at last time. This is what we figured would be the low, and this, as we looked at earlier, was the options sweet spot, 33 options sweet spot, and it's consistently evidencing strong pit manager support, COT support and I'll show you this, and it's so blatantly obvious. And this just reflects an algo that's in play. This is a bull algo that's in play. It's just represented by a Fibonacci retracement, but it's a question of where you anchor these that is so important. But also looking at the footprints and liquidity provider footprints, this is major support. And what that does is, because we've had significant support at that level, what that does is open up the related, makes the 36,585 related target for this algo magnetic. Now, while silver futures have been influenced by momentum short seller crossovers from gold futures, large offside foreign exchange silver OCC bets that were being marked to market into April month end here, and the May contract month end, essentially these contracts and dips sub 32 have aggressively been bought by very active Indian and Chinese buyers. In fact, most liquidity providers see silver, or a silver price sub $38, as absolutely unsustainable. So in the medium term, silver should actually outperform gold. It's got a lot of catching up to do. So thanks for the questions, everyone. I hope I've addressed the latest LBMA attempt to steer Western traders away from gold, just like they failed to block allocated gold becoming a first-tier asset in January 2023 at $1,600 at the time, and closing yesterday's options expiry at $1,700 higher than that, at 3,300. They might be able to inject some short-term unallocated gold and silver volatility, which sure they can, for the reasons we've explained. But they cannot stop gold becoming a global first-tier asset class, even if they are dragged and kicking and screaming into a physically determined gold price. Most importantly, it unshackles, and this is important, it unshackles these poor producers, opening them up to a competing, fairer, physically determined gold price. The only question that really matters right now is how much physical gold and silver do you own?
Not enough. All right, so that was a show. It was very informative. As you can see, July 1st, it's going through. There's no question about it. 4,500 to 5,000 gold. There's no question. Silver, minimum 38, but I think once it breaks where the bullion banks go broke, you'll see 100. And then on and up and off we go. So it's definitely, from a free market standpoint, silver should be 1,000. There's huge demand between electric cars, solar panels, the military Tomahawk missiles, and the fact it's money should be driving the price through the walls. I love when they, oh, well, they're keeping the price down so they can do all this bullshit. Why would they keep the price down? It is what it is. So that's what we're looking at. And gold, 4,000, 45, 4 to 5,000, but it should go higher. I think it'll just, this is like the calm before the storm. They're trying to keep the price down to buy more to cover all these options that they got to cover once Basel III hits. They kicking and screaming, but it doesn't matter. They're going to go with Basel III. That'll happen July 1st, as far as I can see. And they'll do it with silver too. And silver will go to the moon because they'll have to cover. And then they have to go buy, and they're going to buy at a much higher price because I don't believe there's any gold and silver available for, at these prices. Again, a lot of people buy on COMEX because this price is so cheap. $33 silver is extremely cheap and probably much higher other in China or Russia or Dubai. And, and that's where it's going to happen. So we will see it go up dramatically. And that's what, again, the variable change, Basel III, BRICS. These are extremely important variables that are going to make our prices go up. So the average person goes, well, I don't buy silver. It's $32 an ounce, 33. Do you know it's price fixed? No, it's just, I just assume that's the free market price. That's supply and demand. I hear one guy say, that's supply and demand. I go, in what world is it supply and demand are you fucking talking about? You're an idiot. This is the problem with the Keynesians. They just, it's supply and demand. It isn't. A real supply and demand is about probably $500 for silver. The demand is much higher than 32. But when you fuck in with all the paper and you're doing these options with paper gold and silver, that's not supply and demand. That's a whole different supply. That's the paper supply. And that's what I refer to when it's paper versus physical. That's why you buy physical. You avoid ETFs because they are not physical gold. It's paper. You will not get delivered physical gold. The pension plans are going into ETFs. The gold and silver stocks, hopefully they'll move a little, but their inventories are going to be depleted. China's going right to the mines and buying up all their things. So the stocks will go up based on the fact that they have inventory or not. You're best in physical. And like I said, if you need to pay for a trip or a bill, you take your gold and now it's $3,300. Then so if I put it on my credit card at $1,700, now I want to pay my credit card. I got $3,300 to pay off $1,700 in inflated dollars because I'm in physical, and now I'm getting dollars to pay off the dollars that they have on there. So there's nothing wrong with being in debt a little bit within reason right now because you're paying back in dollars that are not worth what they were when you bought the bill, when you put the money on the credit card. So remember that. China's collapsing. So thank you very much, Mark. That I don't mind him watching. I got to watch this one. Did the CIA create Bitcoin? It really doesn't matter, but it wouldn't be surprising. I thought it was the Russian mafia, I was told. Here's the collapse of China. Let's watch a minute or two of this.
Not all concrete coatings are equal. We do it better.
We don't
faster.
care.
With one-day installs, a 15-year warranty.
Structure projects.
Mass protests are breaking out in several regions of China this month. They're driven by a number of grievances, and angry Chinese protesters have been seen clashing with police officers.
We can read it.
That they won't even give their economic data out anymore. What does that really tell you about the shape of their economy right now when you've got protests happening at their factories across the country? That says to me uprising is coming. To be
uprising is not only coming,
It's
it's also
tariffs.
here.
Sorry.
Uprising is coming. To be
Uprising is not only coming, it's also here.
Yeah, it's communism. Be careful.
It's not just the workers, it's also bank depositors right now. China's economy is contracting. We see this from the price data for February, March, and April. The country's in a deflationary spiral. That's an economy killer.
Keynesian.
China is facing an unprecedented financial catastrophe that could reshape the global economy forever. From empty government offices.
Okay, they have 60,000 tons of gold, so don't get all dramatic on us. All right, the yuan's worthless. We know that. But the ace in the hole is the 60,000 tons of gold. That will save anybody from anything as the value of gold goes up. So you don't think China wants a higher gold price? Absolutely. Russia? Absolutely. India, Saudi Arabia, they're all fucking up their economy because of Keynesian printing money to try to get it's really, you print money to try to get your GDP higher. I don't know why that matters. It doesn't, you don't do it to screw up your dollars to make them worthless. That's not, you can grow to your economy. If the dollar's no good, you're fucked. So this guy's a little dramatic, but again, you'll never hear them say China's got 60,000 tons of gold.
Where civil servants haven't been paid in months, to elderly investors crying in the streets after losing their life savings. The signs are everywhere. China's total debt has exploded to well over $50 trillion. That's more than 3 times what the entire country earns in a year. To put that in perspective, it's as if your debt were triple your income with no realistic path to paying it off. What makes this crisis truly terrifying is that behind every figure is real pain. Government workers are maxing out credit cards just to survive. Retirees who trusted government-backed bonds have lost everything. And local
Does that sound familiar? Does that sound like what's happening here? People maxing out their credit cards, people relying on their pensions, Social Security, people having T-bills like only an idiot would be in a T-bill because you'll never get it paid off. You have $37 trillion in debt, which is mostly T-bills. They're not going to pay that off, or they're going to struggle. How the hell are you go get a T-bill? You're going to get paid off, and you're going to get paid off with such shit dollars that it won't be. You get a $10,000 T-bill, even if they do pay you off, you're getting crap money. The $10,000 you paid to get the T-bill is now worth $5,000. You're missing the value of the dollar. Declining is the killer. And all they want to talk about, oh, inflation's down. Look at the prices. It's such bullshit. But this is coming to a theater near us right here. This is China. They at least make products. We don't make shit.
Governments are so broke, they're being banned from using high-speed trains because they can't pay their debts. Here's the real story of how China's massive debt load grew so massive, why it's collapsing now, and what this means for the rest of the world. By the end of this special report, you'll understand why this isn't just China's problem, it's everyone's problem. Here are the jaw-dropping numbers. China's total debt, including government, corporate, and household debt, now exceeds $50 trillion. That is larger than the entire GDP of the United States and European Union combined. But here's what makes it even scarier. This debt has been growing at breakneck speed. Just half a decade ago, China's debt to GDP ratio was around 2.5 times its economic output. Today, it's over 3 times GDP and climbing every...
Does that mean anything to anybody? I don't think so. Because the GDP is fake, the money's worthless, so it's different. It's not, you're not comparing apples to apples. And you've had these tariffs. You have a lot of people leaving to go work in Vietnam or Korea or maybe India. I don't know. So it's all irrelevant. The GDP changes all the time. And the debt, a lot of it is, the biggest problem is people can't get their money out of the bank. It's the government that's broke, that won't pay the people their money that they have. So they have to go with their credit card because they got the $1 million won in the bank that they can't get out because they won't give it to them. And that's why they'll never have a war, because they don't have a military. The military is worthless. However, the war is the gold. This is the war we're in. This is what World War III is. You might have Russia, Ukraine fighting it out with weapons, but the rest of the world is this nuclear war is gold. This is the war. And US can't even join the war. We have no gold. They'll do the audit and they'll find, they might bullshit and say, oh yeah, there's 8,000 tons. We all know they don't have it. If they did, they would say, here it is. It would take 10 minutes. It wouldn't take 50 years to show you we have 8,000 tons. So they don't have it. They've loaned it out because I know how the US works. They're going to sell it to China and go, oh, look, we made money on the gold. But because we keep the gold here, we'll say we have it. What a joke.
Single day. For comparison, the United States, which everyone says has a debt problem, sits at roughly 2.75 times its GDP. Japan, famous for its debt issues, is at similar levels. China has blown past both of these supposedly debt-heavy nations. What's particularly alarming is where this debt is concentrated. Local governments alone owe over $12 trillion through official channels, but experts estimate the real number could be closer to $18 to $20 trillion when you include hidden debts. That's money borrowed through shadow financing vehicles that don't show up on official government books. The property sector, which was supposed to be China's golden goose, has become a massive liability. Real estate companies owe hundreds of billions, with giants like Evergrande owing between $290 billion and $300.
Okay, well, we already know all this. This is old history. So yeah, their debt is mostly the real estate market. People have gone bankrupt because the house and there's no house, and Evergrande is going bankrupt because they have no revenue. They're not, even though they sold it, they bought more houses and continued to buy, and then now there's no market for it. You've made too many, and then the value of the houses are coming down, and Evergrande can't afford to pay off the debts they borrowed. So we know the real estate, and it really doesn't matter. Because China's got the gold, as do Russia and everybody else. Anything else? So I watched this one. Zelensky just made a big mistake, but it's over. But it's not like it's over. It's over. You got to be careful with what they put on these things, the story thing. It's stupid. Most of them, you watch it and then it's not any good. Even here, Putin's 2-week deadline. It's Trump putting a deadline on him that's absolutely meaningless. $166 billion bomb drop, U.S. bonds at risk. Basically, China said, fuck you, and is selling all the bonds because they want to buy gold. So China, as he said, so that's elastic and inelastic. Gold is for China, gold's elastic. They'll buy it at any price, I believe. I really don't like talking Keynesian. So anyway, China will buy gold at any price. How about that? And that's all that I don't care what that means, elastic or inelastic. That's what it means. No matter what the price, China's buying more. And so therefore, I think what you're seeing now is in comex is just they're pushing the price down to buy it. And that's what this is. So let's see where we're at. Oh, the ruble is coming back nicely. It's at 25.5 and made a nice sharp turn. Let's see what the where's the Swiss? There's Sweden. I don't see Swiss. Let's see what it is in Saudi. Saudi, it's 12,353. And let's see what it is in the US of A. And we bounced back to 30. Notice how the graph is the same for everybody. They bounced back to 32.92, or we have. Silver 32.94. And as people say, look at the 100-to-1 ratio, which I have no idea what that is or why they would use it, what it's trying to prove. So 32.92 gold. We'll see it at 4,500 soon. What can you say? It's a very misleading number. The whole thing on comex is very misleading. They're trying to manipulate and price fix, and then they're not going to be able to. That's what's coming to the end. But people don't realize it, and they don't realize it's price fixed. Oh, it's a conspiracy. Yes, it's a government conspiracy that we think it's price fixed. I mean, so this is the problem, and people don't think it will run because it's price fixed, and it hasn't run in 50 years, even though it's ran from 1,700 to 3,300 now. But then you look at silver, and it hasn't run. Well, it kind of ran from 20 to 33, but not where it's headed. It's headed over 100. And really, that's the key to it. It's going over 100, and we will see. But that's just going to take time, and be patient. I mean, that's all I can say. It's like anything. I'm waiting for Daria. She was sick. She had her operation on her gum, and now she's healing, and she was resting to death. So she was saying, I'm home resting. Her hemoglobin's low. So I looked it up, and I says, you need citrus fruits, lemon and orange, and more meat. And that's what she's doing. So she's eating a little more healthy, which will help her body. That's why I am so a proponent of the olive oil and my lemon I squeeze every morning, and my Celtic salt and cayenne pepper. All that stuff is just because your body needs it, because they're fucking up with our food. All these like farm raised salmon and farm raised chicken and farm raised cows, where they're all together, and then there's just who the fuck knows what they're doing. It's cheaper for the farmer, but it's not healthy for us. So you should buy grass-fed hamburgers and wild salmon and chicken that's free, not caged. So that's what that's what you try to do, but it is expensive. The supply is low and the demand's high for it. So there's the prices, but it makes you healthy. Daria says, how are you? I'm always fairly healthy. My feet bother me a little on and off. And then I do the big fast. I did 70 hours maybe a month ago, and I'll probably do another, 70 soon. But it's very healthy for you. So there's a lot of stuff we can do that's healthy. But keep in mind, with the dollar, it's worthless. So the quicker you understand, it doesn't matter. It now takes $20 to buy a steak, and then it goes to $30. Well, that's the dollar going down. The $100 bill, is my point, is not worth what it was. And that's really what you're looking at. So keep that in mind, is the dollar is being printed, and that's your inflation, and it's worth less. As I showed you, gold and rubles and gold and the dollar are two different animals, yet the gold itself is worth the same. Because if you convert the Russian ruble to US dollars, so that Russian figure of 255,000 compared to the 3,300 US is the same. That's the same thing. It's the same thing, and US dollars and rubles are the same thing once you convert it. So you can see where we're headed. 200,000 for an ounce of gold. Well, what will the 200,000 buy you? And that's why everybody's excited with Bitcoin. And what's the 100,000 going to buy you? Let's check the market today, and then we'll call it a day, I guess, unless you have any other questions. All right, let's look at Bitcoin. So why is Bitcoin down to 104,000? I thought it was going to 1 million. So it went from 100 to 77, 77 to 80 to 90 to 111. But now it's back to 104. Wait a minute. Why is it going? Oh, you mean it's manipulated by Larry Fink and the Russian mafia are manipulating it by using derivatives, which is what they use in comex to knock the why I thought nobody sold it. So why is it 104,000? What's the value of Bitcoin? You have no idea. And this is the problem with Bitcoin. Not only can you not see it or know it, you don't know what the value is. All right, so that's that. And let's take a look at the market. And the Dow's down $150. How in the world it's at 42,000 is impossible. This should be about 25,000, and that's where it's headed. So right now the government is printing money and buying stocks with it, and mostly the Amazons and the Apples and whatever, Google, and they're just putting it into those. They're not valued properly, and that's what they're at. So there you have it. I'd rather be in gold than Bitcoin by a mile. So you were in it on 111. Now you're in at 104. Now you're in at 90. What's the price of Bitcoin again? And gold, we know, is going to 4,500. So you can't compare gold at 4,500 and Bitcoin at 105. Gold's better because it's real. It's physical. You own it. The Bitcoin is priced in dollars. As the dollar fades to zero, the Bitcoin price goes to zero. Gold goes to zero, but the gold itself goes up. And that's the point of the exercise. The physical gold will go up in value, just like the Rolex, just like the Montana card, just like the Bobby Orr card. Those will not lose value. They'll change because you're fucking with the dollar and you're printing it, making it worth less. And that's what this debt's about. And that's what, you might owe on your house and your credit cards, but you're paying back in inflated dollars. And when the dollar goes out, what are you going to owe on your house? Nothing, because there's nothing to pay. There's no dollars. So I owe $300,000. The dollar's gone. So I owe nothing because there's no dollars to pay it. However, the value of the house goes to zero in dollars. And here comes gold, and gold says, "Oh, I'll value the house at $50,000 gold dollar." And then you'll be like, "Oh, okay, yeah, I'll take gold for the house." And that's what's going to happen. And that's the whole finance. The medium of exchange goes from dollars to gold. And that's really the key to what you got to understand with that. All right, I think that's it. I think I'm going to go get lunch. The pool's closed for some reason. I think it's maintenance or something, but they're literally closed today. The whole building's closed. I kidded with the lady who greets you, and I said I'll probably show up tomorrow, but the plan will be to go to the lake and walk around there. My foot's a little tender, but as I walk, it kind of loosens up, and I put castor oil on it. But anyway, that's what we'll do. So I think I'll go get some barbecue, and then I'm off. So have a good day. Any questions, comments before I leave? Please ask now. instead of having the phone ring and it's Mark McGuire, I do it live. It's fine with me. I think when you have 1,000 people watching, it's hard to do it live because there's so many questions that pop in. But what I don't like is when the people say, "Hi, how you doing?" I mean, well, I don't mind that, but if I had 1,000 people, what's your comment? I want to know your comment. I don't really want to know, say hi. That's why I really don't do comments, but I might start. But here's my comments in here. But I might start doing it so people realize what I teach, because based on the comments, I probably get a lot of good ones. And so I should share that. So I might take off the comments. More, it's like football. Oh, you gave me this losing game or something. And you're like, well, yeah, I'm not Madoff. I can't go 100%. So I don't really want to hear negative. It's stupid. All right. Anything else? All right. So watch your goal, July 1st, Basel 3. So I think for the next week or so, we're seeing this negative or this neutral, 2990, 3,000, goes up to 3,020 and then back down to 3,000. And like he said, China's reversing it. I noticed that about 2-3 weeks ago. China always bought and it always went up, and then it kind of edged for Europe and came down for the US. Now China's not doing anything. If anything, they're kind of lowering it a little bit. So when China gets it, it actually goes down $5-10. And then I think they buy it at the end. And Europe is kind of buying it in the US. And they have to buy because they got to cover these positions that are on the shorts that they are buying. So that's kind of where we're at. Anyway, I think that's it. All right. Eat your lemons and olive oils, Celtic salt, cayenne peppers. Be healthy. Dark chocolates, avocados. This is the best food, avocados. This will fix anything. A girl at the pool had like acne or something. I said, put avocado. Use avocado and lemon. It'll clear you up. Profit. Keep the comment section. That's the best part. No, not here. This is the live comments. I mean, at the like when let's say we're done, right? And it's 3 hours later, and somebody watches it and they want to leave a comment. And those are kind of the dead comment. Those are the comments after the video when it's not live. And so yes, no, I like the live comments. That's why I do the show live. I used to do a video show. I used to talk and then I'd post it, but then I noticed it live, and now I just do it live. I prefer to do it live and get the feedback and the questions. Baseball, let's talk there. We're taking Toronto, 2 units. The Niners over 8.5, 2 units. The Jets 2 units. Atlanta 1.5, 2 units. Kansas City under 8.5, 2 units. And our 2 locks, we're taking Max Fried for the Yankees, 3 units, and we're taking Ric Flair, Brian Wu, 3 units for Seattle. Those are the 2. And I tease, I don't do parlays, but if I was going to do that, and I might, that would be my parlay. Take the Yankees and Seattle in a 2-team parlay today. And if you're looking for good odds, I would put it with Indy in the NBA tomorrow. I don't like playing the player props. I think the only way I would play the player props is when you're playing, a really strong defense. San Diego, Denver, Kansas City, Pittsburgh. Then I would bet guys not to get their yards. Like in the Super Bowl, Barkley, I don't know what it was. He got like 30 yards because he was up against KC's defense. And so that's what you're really looking for is against that. And if you're playing a really weak defense, then maybe I'd go over. So you look at the defense to determine if you want to go over and under on the prop bets, but I'd be careful. I'd be careful on team win totals. I would be very careful on that. I can go over college. Maybe I'll do that tomorrow. Today, is the Mark McGwire day. So we can go over that. The pros we've went over. Maybe I'll do a football show maybe tomorrow or Sunday. And that's about it. So buy your gold and silver. Just buy. Just fucking buy it. Don't question gold, silver at 32, you get it for 35, 33, you get it for 30. Don't question it. Just buy it. There's no need to question it. It's a no-brainer. It's going to go to the moon because of Basel III, because of BRICS, because the dollar's worthless. You have 18 reasons. You've got wars going on to try to get out of it. It's the funniest thing. They're going to war to get out of the recession. It doesn't, that's not what it does. War creates depressions because it's expensive to do a war. How are you going to pay for it? There is no revenue unless you steal the gold like Hitler did. So Hitler's idea of the war to make money is he stole the other country's gold. Yeah, that's how we'll steal the paintings and the gold. We made money. It was a profitable war. I mean, that's about what I see it from. Anyway, have a good day. I'm going to go get something to eat and probably go walk the lake. It's nice to go out and relax there. All right. So have a good day. www.teaserking.com. Tuesday, I am meeting Luke in Toledo if anybody's interested. There's a steakhouse there, or we can meet wherever you want. Just make plans just when you're going to be somewhere close. I mean, it's probably a 45-minute drive for me to Toledo. If you're in around this Detroit area, then sure, we could meet for a nice dinner. All right. Have a good day, everybody. www.teaserking.com. You can get my email there if you want to talk. All right. Take care, everybody. Have a good weekend.